brother. What's up?
This is a groovy party, man.
Yeah, brother.
I can dig
Like,
it.
stop. Right on.
Mother, there's too many of you crying. Good morning on the Earl Ingram Show. Earl's not in today. I'm subbing for him. I'm Matt Rothschild. I used to be over at the Progressive Magazine, Wisconsin Democracy Campaign, and my guest co-host again today is Angela Lang, who I really enjoy hosting on Civic Media with. Angela, how are you this morning?
I'm good. I had to pull out the Block hoodie today. I'm very proud of our team.
Oh, there you go. Angela Lang is the founder and executive director of Block, Black Leaders Organizing for Communities. And Block and a whole lot of other people did a lot of great grassroots work during this huge election we had on Tuesday. And I still got a buzz from it, I got to say, Angela. And
Same.
I'm wondering what your takeaway was from the huge Wisconsin Supreme Court victory.
You know, I'm gonna be honest. I was holding this in a lot, but it started to come out. But like, I felt a lot of pressure, right? Like, I felt like the resistance movement was looking at Wisconsin to see if we were gonna be able to stop big money and Elon Musk and the through line to the Trump and to buy our courts. So I was like, if we don't do this, does this take out the momentum or the hope of the rest of the resistance movement? And it goes to show that Wisconsinites, no matter what side of the aisle, and I said this on this show before, that like no matter what, people do not want to have outstate people and billionaires to buy their courts. And I think that was shown. And like you said, a lot of canvas operations, a lot of grassroots organizations, myself, with the team at Block, they knocked on a ton of doors and they were hard, and spring elections are difficult with the weather. And so I feel good. And I think, I know there's protests and stuff happening in the next few days. Hopefully this, kind of puts a battery in some folks a little bit.
Yeah, there are big protests all across the state tomorrow at noon, and I'll give some of the details about where those protests are. In Madison, of course, it's at the Capitol at noon, and I know there's one in Milwaukee at the Federal Building, 517 East Wisconsin Avenue. There's one up in Wausau on Rib Mountain Drive between Michael's Crafts and Hobby Lobby. There's one in La Crosse on Losey Boulevard and State Street. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Eau Claire at the Phoenix Park, Farmers Park Pavilion. In Green Bay at Lake Memorial Park on Deuceman Street. So all across the state and all across the country, tomorrow at noon, people are expressing their disgust at what Donald Trump is doing to this country, to our democracy, to our economy. And so I do encourage everybody to protest, because one of the great ways to stop authoritarianism in its tracks is get out in the streets and protest. They want us to be passive. They want us to be silent. They want us to be compliant or complicit, and we can't be either compliant or complicit at this point. So I encourage people to go to those protests tomorrow. And you can always get more information online at handsoff2025.com. That's handsoff2025.com. Angela, you mentioned Musk. I think Musk was a net negative for Schimmel, despite what Ron Johnson has to say about that.
The spin afterwards, right?
Yeah. Well, the spin afterwards was ridiculous, because Musk, 2 days before the election, said the dynasty of humanity hangs in the balance in Wisconsin, which was hyperbole squared. And then afterwards he said, I knew we were going to lose. I just wanted voter ID to pass, which was just a ridiculous backtrack. And then, of course, Ron Johnson has to be his usual sycophantic self. The funniest thing I saw all week was from Jon Stewart making fun of Elon Musk and putting on the cheese head. And Cardi, if we have that clip, let's play that funny little clip, because it just makes me laugh every time.
So aside from the president saying, I'm not leaving, is there any other image of the shambolic state of our democracy, perhaps something that looks like what you might get if you fed the destruction of democracy into an AI meme generator? Oh, right, Elon Musk. Okay. The richest and most fertile man in the world went to Wisconsin, where he came out in a cheese hat before giving $1 million checks to voters in an effort to influence the Supreme Court race in Wisconsin. Hey, you know what that's about? You know what that's about, Elon? Their culture is not your costume, Musk. Their people. Do not appropriate their dairy chapeaus.
Our culture is not not for you to just bandy about on your silly little head. I love that, except for the word shambolic. I don't know why people are ever throwing that word around. That's not a word I say in public. It just means chaotic. But why use that ridiculous word when 3/4 to 99% of the audiences know what it is? But anyway, I found that very funny. And Musk finally got taken down a couple notches, which was quite nice.
Can I just say, I just found out this week, like the little awkward little jump thing he does on stage that he's done numerous times. I thought it was just like a weird thing he does. Apparently, it's supposed to be like the X. He's like doing an X symbol, I guess.
He's branding
I thought
there?
he was just doing a weird jump.
I'm changing the name to X was crazy.
I was like, oh, at least there's a reason that he's doing it. I guess there's an explanation, but I don't know if that's what the socials were saying.
So crazy. I want to invite listeners here to the Earl Ingram Show all across the Civic Media Radio Network to join our conversation. Call us at 855-752-4842. That's 855-75-CIVIC. You know the 855. The rest is 752-4842. Give us a call. Tell us what you thought about the election, what your lingering euphoria feels like right now. I'm still feeling it myself. For all that money Elon Musk threw into this race, between $20 and $25 million, which is unbelievable, didn't amount to anything. And at the end, the people of Wisconsin said we're not going to be bought.
It was an hour. It was an hour.
Oh, it's so early, yeah.
That was the thing. Like my group chats, we were like, wait, it's too early. Like we thought 11 midnight. Imagine being the world's richest man dumping in 20 something million of dollars only to be taken out within an hour of polls closing.
And I'm used to these early decisions coming out and being bad, like when Hillary Clinton lost, or when Trump won the first time, or when Walker won the recall. It's just like, don't give me another early we got defeated kick in the teeth, please. And I was worried for days and weeks leading up to this election, because I just I knew people were devastated still from November, and I didn't know whether we had the energy to bounce back. So it was so exciting to see that people understood it, felt it, rose back up, and took Elon Musk and Brad Schimmel down, and told everybody in the country that we don't like the direction Donald Trump's going. I was getting calls from my brothers and sisters, one sister in Cleveland, a couple brothers in Illinois, saying, how are you guys doing? Are you going to win this? A sister in California. I come from a big family, 8 kids, biggest Jewish family this side of Haifa. Anyway, they were all wondering what was going to happen here. And I know people all over the country had their eyes on us. And it was a shot in the arm, not just for us here in Wisconsin, but as you mentioned, Angela Lang, a shot in the arm for the resistance movement in this country. And that's what we need to keep building, a resistance movement that is not going to let Donald Trump tear down our democracy and our country. And so that was very exciting. And then on the court itself, it was nice to see yesterday that the liberal justices on the Wisconsin Supreme Court made Ann Walsh Bradley the Chief Justice. Ann Walsh Bradley is the one who is retiring, which is why, of course, Susan Crawford will be on the bench soon. But Ann Walsh Bradley has served tremendously on the Wisconsin Supreme Court for many, many years. And I was just wondering why it took so long, because the liberals had a majority. I think they could have gotten rid of the conservative Chief Justice anytime they wanted to, and they didn't do it. They held off until now, and then they're giving Ann Walsh Bradley the Chief Justice chair and gavel for a couple months. And Susan Crawford, in her beautiful victory speech, one of the best victory speeches I've ever heard, she was extremely gracious toward Ann Walsh Bradley and what Ann Walsh Bradley has brought to the court. And anyone who sat in on the Wisconsin Supreme Court hearings, arguments, or who has read Ann Walsh Bradley's rulings understands that she is a woman of not only tremendous intelligence, but tremendous grace, too.
Yeah.
She doesn't engage in vitriolic attacks on her fellow justices who are on the other side. That's not how she plays. So she does deserve a lot of praise for her role, and I'm glad she's going to be able to enjoy being Chief Justice for a couple months.
Yeah, and then also like conversely, I saw a clip of the other Justice Bradley,
The bad Bradley.
the Bradley that's not aligned with our values, who I believe, if I remember correctly, will be up next year. She was at the Schimmel election watch party, and she was saying, "I do not look forward, to working with Susan Crawford, and I don't appreciate how she slandered a good man," and she kind of just like any type of media training. You don't really bash your opponent. You can be disappointed, right? But you want to act a little gracious. And that clip, I think, kind of went a little viral locally and with other folks, of people talking about how she does not want to work with Susan Crawford. So definitely a bit of a sore loser, and she let that be known, and I think that also was very distasteful. And it was just very interesting that she was talking about all this out of state money that was coming in, when we had Elon Musk literally writing $1 million checks, but she wants to talk about big money. So interesting.
Absolutely, and I'm glad you brought that up, Angela Lang, because she's in no position to talk about the problem of big money because she ruled on the Wisconsin Supreme Court in 2015 to allow unlimited expenditures to dark money groups and allowed candidates to then coordinate with those dark money groups, which just makes any limit on campaign finance donations immaterial. And you're also correct in that she doesn't play well with others. Not a lot of class there with Rebecca Bradley. And not only did she signal that she's not going to play nicely with Susan Crawford, she doesn't even play nicely with Brian Hagedorn, another conservative justice on the court. So looking forward to seeing the liberal majority continue on the Wisconsin Supreme Court. You're listening to the Earl Ingram Show on the Civic Media Radio Network. I'm Matt Rothschild, co-hosting with Angela Lang this morning. Please join our conversation, 855-752-4842. We'll be right back.
Everybody thinks we're at home. Oh, but who would they judge us? Simply cause our hair is long. Oh, you know we've got to bring some understanding here today. Oh. Pick it loud and pick it sound. Don't punish me with brutality. Come on, talk to me so you can see what's going on. Yeah, what's going on? Tell me what's going on. I'll tell you what's going on. Right on. Right on. Right on.
Welcome back to the Earl Ingram Show on the Civic Media Radio Network. I'm Matt Rothschild, subbing in for Earl, who's off today. He'll be back on Monday. And my guest co-host is Angela Lang of Block, and we're talking about the week that was, the great exhilaration that many of us still feel after the tremendous victory by Susan Crawford on Tuesday. And we'll be talking, of course, about what Trump is doing to our economy and our democracy in a little bit, too. So you can join the conversation anytime you'd like it. 855-752-4842. That's 855-75-CIVIC. Angela Lang, right before the break, we were talking about campaign finance and the odd complaint from the bad Bradley, Rebecca Bradley, about all the money that was here. And I just want to give a little more context for why we had so much money here. Of course, some of it is because of the U.S. Supreme Court decision in Citizens United, or in the McCutcheon decision in 2014 that said there can't be aggregate limits on what any single individual, rich individual, can spend during elections, because who else can spend extraordinary amounts like Elon Musk? But also a lot of the responsibility falls on the shoulders of Scott Walker and the gerrymandered Republican legislature, which in 2015 rewrote our campaign finance law. At the time, I was the executive director at the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign, and the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign has spent a lot of its life trying to get big and dark money out of our politics. So I brought myself to the state capitol up in the Senate gallery on the evening that they were discussing rewriting the campaign finance law. And I was there when they just totally destroyed it. They took out all the rhetoric about the importance of placing limits on huge individual donations and having disclosure. The Republicans didn't want any of that high-minded rhetoric in there. On top of that, they doubled the amount that rich people could give directly to Wisconsin Supreme Court candidates, from $10,000 to $20,000. And who's got that change in their pocket? Right. But even worse, they tore down all the ceilings on donations to the political parties and to the outside groups. And so why even have a $20,000 limit if Elon Musk can give $20 million, or if J.B. Pritzker can, give $2 million, or George Soros can give money to the Democratic Party, and then the Democratic Party can just shuffle that over to Susan Crawford. So Democratic state senators like Mark Miller, like Chris Larson, were raising a stink on the Senate floor that evening when I was there. And no one was in the gallery except a cop and a 21-year-old page. It really was empty when this huge change in our campaign finance law was brought about, because the limit used to be $10,000. Yeah. Elon Musk could have, in 2015 or in 2014, spent only $10,000 total, whether to his funky outside groups or whether he wanted just to give $10,000 to the Republican Party or Wisconsin or directly to Schimmel. That would have been it. He couldn't have spent another dime. But because of this change that they wrote in the legislature, he can spend 2,000 times what the legal limit was, or something ridiculous. So I mean, who is Rebecca Bradley? Who are the Republicans now to be complaining about all the money that Susan Crawford, or Ben Wickler, if you will, helped bring into the state? And I hated the commercials. I think everyone in Wisconsin, including Susan Crawford's mom, hated the commercials. Susan Crawford said that in her speech. And the commercials were horrible. And I want to talk to you about that a little bit. But the money itself, the responsibility for the money falls squarely on the shoulders of the Republicans, make no doubt, and on the Roberts U.S. Supreme Court. And we got to change all that. There is a movement in Wisconsin to do that, and across the country. In Wisconsin, the group that's working on that is called Wisconsin United to Amend. And in 179 communities in Wisconsin, people have voted that we want to overturn Citizens United and put reasonable limits on what all this mud that's splattering our screens during election time. But Angela Lang, you wrote a piece about the commercials, and the commercials, what I'm talking about is these crime commercials that were indistinguishable one from the other. You didn't know if Susan Crawford, if you didn't have the volume on, you didn't, and just were looking at the images, you wouldn't know if it was, against Susan Crawford or against Brad Schimmel. Both of them were saying, this candidate is horrible on sexual abuse, horrible on sex offenders, horrible on terrible, violent criminals. Don't vote for this candidate. And what does that do to our politics?
I think it makes people not want to engage at all. And especially too, these aren't like traumatic commercials. These are not warm and fuzzy commercials. And so I think they're meant to get a reaction. But also, if you look at the state Supreme Court, it has nothing to do with these tough on crime ads. And yes, there is something to be said about being able to talk about someone's record. But when that is the focal point, and you are no longer talking about judicial philosophy or the issues at hand or your own values, then people are like, why am I even discussing this? And I also think, while they're traumatic as well, I've seen some folks say that they had to shield their kids or, process some things that they were triggered by and go back to therapy because of these ads. And yes, like I said, I think it's important to highlight someone's career, but that should not be the focal point. And if that is driving people to turn out because they're being misinformed or misled to believe that the state Supreme Court is going to solve their community, break-ins, they're going to show up and then be disappointed when nothing happens with their issues. And so I think it's not sustainable in the long run at all.
I also think, and we've got a couple callers, I'm hoping you'll stay on the line after the break because I just want to finish this conversation with Angela first. I also think that those ads didn't help Susan Crawford.
No.
I mean, Susan Crawford won because there was tremendous turnout in Milwaukee County, Madison, Dane County, and every county in the state. The activists got out and voted. The progressives and the Democrats who are just disgusted by what Donald Trump is doing to this country, they turned out in astronomical numbers. And it wasn't that they were turning out because they saw a Susan Crawford ad that said Brad Schimmel's bad on sexual predators.
No.
That's not what happened. And she would have won anyway. Instead, there was all this poison just circling around the body politic because both candidates and the outside money funneled in all these ugly ads for us. You're listening to the Earl Ingram Show on the Civic Media Radio Network. I'm Matt Rothschild, sub-hosting for Earl along with Angela Lang of Block, and we'll be right back with your calls and your comments. 855-752-4842. Looking forward to talking with you.
Think twice, 'cause it's another day for you and me in paradise. Think twice, 'cause it's another day for you and me in paradise. Think about it. She calls out to the man on the street. He can see she's been crying. She's got blisters on the soles of her feet. She can't walk, but she's trying. Oh, think twice, 'cause it's another day for you and me in paradise. Oh, think twice, it's just another day for you and me in paradise. Just think about it. Oh no, is there nothing more anybody can do? Oh no, there must be something you can say. You can tell from the lines on her face. You can see that she's been there. Probably been moved on from every place, 'cause she didn't fit in there. Oh, think twice, 'cause it's another day for you and me in paradise. Oh, think twice, it's just another day for you and me in paradise. Just think about it.
Day here in Wisconsin. I'm Matt Rothschild. I'm guest hosting, along with Angela Lang, the Earl Ingram Show. Thanks for being with us. You can join our conversation at 855-752-4842. Love Earl Ingram. Love his voice, not just his beautiful, deep voice, but his powerful moral voice.
Yes.
And Angela Lang's powerful moral voice, for that matter. Both Earl and Angela are getting awards from the Milwaukee Press Club. Earl's getting one for the best regularly scheduled radio program, and Angela's getting one for the second year in a row for best editorial column. So congratulations, Angela. There we go.
Thank you. Also, shout out to Dan Schaefer from the Recombobulation area, who I believe also got like 4 or 5. We're all the thing I am getting. He's also nominated in the same category. So it's funny to be up against, quote unquote, your own editor. But yeah, I was thinking about this. I was like, they're probably going to announce these after the election. And Dan texted me and I was like, oh, back to back. Okay. Was last year just a fluke? Could I do it again? So I'm very proud and very excited. And shout out to Dan for always letting me have a platform to, say what is on my mind. A lot of times Dan will be like, hey, you had a lot of thoughts on this particular issue on Twitter. Would you like to write an op-ed about it?
Mm-hmm.
So to be able to have that platform and to have him push me, I've seen, my writing grow with his support too. So huge shout out to Dan. And Dan is also everywhere. Like we saw him on election night with a special election coverage and everything. So it's been really cool to see how the Recombobulation area, now a part of Civic Media, has grown just in the last several years too.
Yeah, he's doing a great job as the political editor over here at Civic Media. I enjoy his 1-minute commentaries that air on the network. And, I was just doing those Facebook reels the other day, and there was Todd Alba and Dan Schaefer announcing the victory and saying how early the victory was for Susan Crawford. So that kind of made me laugh, too.
Yeah.
Just tremendous work by all of you. And it's just fun to be here with you. We're talking about the election on Tuesday. We're talking about the need for campaign finance. We have a couple callers. If they're still with us, Cardi, let's take the callers right now.
Gotcha. We have Jim from Brookfield.
Jim, you're on.
Good morning.
You're on the air. What's up?
Good morning.
Okay. Good morning, Matt. Good morning, Angela. Angela, congratulations for a second time getting the press award for the editorials. I'll have to make sure I read them, but congratulations. And Matt, it's good to hear you again on a Friday morning. I go back to your Wisconsin Public Radio days with the Weekend Review with Joy Cardine. You would so graciously debate Margaret Farrell. I really enjoyed those conversations, so it's good to hear your voice again.
Oh, thanks, Jim.
I
enjoyed those.
Yeah, you did really well. You were so gracious with Margaret Farrell. She was kind of clueless on some things, but you were very diplomatic and always polite and professional, as opposed to some of the guests that Joy would have on there. But anyway, I want to circle back to the bad Bradley, to Rebecca Bradley. I don't think it's too early to start talking about her upcoming election a year from now. That's going to come faster than we think, and the ads will probably come out sooner than we ever want to see them. But I just want to say a couple of things. I think it should be pointed out that her career and rise to power is strictly due to the appointments of Mr. Scott Walker, our former governor. He handed her everything, and he appointed her after a judgeship to the Supreme Court after there was a death on the court, and she had the huge advantage of running for re-election as an incumbent, and she did get in. It wasn't anywhere near as what we just saw, a larger victory what we just saw with Susan Crawford, but she did sneak in, even though some very racist posts that she had written in college had surfaced. And I'll never forget how some of the conservative commentators dismissed that and said, well, it was 21 years earlier when she was at Marquette Law School, 21 years, but they said, oh, that was more than a quarter of a century ago. They put a positive spin on that, as if in 21 years you're going to, quote unquote, grow up, become real and fair-minded. Anyway, she has turned out to be nothing but what she railed against Tuesday night on the election, nothing but a Republican mouthpiece and spewing the far-right mantra and voting that way. So I want to ask two questions to you, Matt, and to Angela. what type of candidate do you think should be, go up against her? I think it should be somebody bare knuckles who can take her on. But also in today's Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, they mentioned that she's looking at replacing Diane Sykes for that Seventh Court Appeals Court. And if she takes that, there would be an open seat. But my question on that is, could Donald Trump appoint her to replace Diane Sykes? Could that be a possibility, that she won't even run for re-election because she'll get a nice job on that Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals? So my two questions are, what type of candidate, and is it possible, it could be an open race?
Well, Jim from Brookfield, thanks so much for the
Thank
call
you.
and your nice comments. I do think, she could leave the Wisconsin Supreme Court, which I would welcome. I know the appellate court would not welcome her coming down there, but it'd be nice to get her out of here. She is a bad remnant of the Walker days. Who would run for that spot? I know former Assemblywoman Chris Taylor was thinking about running last time. Maybe she'd run again. And there are other good candidates who've run before who could run again. Angela, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of questions now, I think, because of her comments on election night. People are like, is she going to run again? Knowing how these Supreme Court elections have gone for the conservative candidates, does she basically have a chance next year? So I think there are some folks that are wondering, does she see the writing on the wall? Is she going to get this appointment? And it is my understanding that Trump could appoint her to that court, which would leave an open seat. And I have not said I think it's not a surprise. I'm gonna say who I would like to see run. I did not vet this through this person, so please don't be mad if you're listening. Huge fan of Everett Mitchell, and the way he ran and some of the challenges that he had in the primary against Janet Protasiewicz. And I think the way he inspired a lot of people, our ambassadors, he inspired a new group of folks that aren't traditionally engaged in a Supreme Court election. And I think a lot of times the reason, some of the racism and the electability, quote unquote, dog whistle, I think kind of prevented him, because if it was control of the court, people were like, you're great, but I don't know if we can elect a Black man statewide. And so if you don't kind of have that dynamic of, the balance of power hanging in, the looms of this election, would people feel, I guess, more comfortable taking a chance on a Black man, whether that's Judge Everett Mitchell or someone else too, which I kind of talk about a little bit in the piece about the Tough on Crime ad. So I haven't talked to him about it. So sorry if this is a little kind of just overstepping, but I don't think it's a secret. Huge fan. I have a lot of deep respect for Everett Mitchell and would love to see him run again.
Yeah, so there are two candidates, Chris Taylor, Everett Mitchell, both would be good candidates.
Yeah.
Angela Lang has written powerfully in her editorials on Everett Mitchell. We have Mary Schneider, who texts in saying, I love Everett Mitchell. So there's 2 votes for Everett Mitchell right off the bat.
And I love Chris Taylor too. This is not like a knock on her as well.
Yeah, I mean, both would be great candidates. So Jim, thanks for that call. Cardi, do we have another caller still with us?
Yes, we do. We have 2 callers. We have Tom from LA next.
Beautiful. Tom, you're up.
Yeah. Hey, Matt. Well, I have decided to really start a organization that's not going to be for profit. It's not going to be for a nonprofit. It's going to be for a labor of love. And that is going to be Get Money Out of Politics. It's going to be getmoneyout.net. I'm tired of sitting on the sideline with going to Move to Amend and all of these other organizations, which really have been in place for a long time, but I don't see that they're getting the job done. And I think we don't need to be talking about Move to Amend. No one knows what amend means. The average person out there knows get money out of politics. The average person is sick of commercials. The average person is sick of text messages. The average person is sick of emails. The average person is sick of go to this website to put your name down, but hey, we're going to ask you for a donation afterwards. I know I'm sick of it. And the thing is, I can't just sit back anymore. So if any of your listeners out there know anything, I know Cam does from Appleton, and other people about websites and putting together something to really get money out, please contact me, because I am sick of this. We just ran a campaign for $100 million. Yes, the right put 50 million in, but you know what? The left was forced to put 50 million in. This is ridiculous. We need to restore government back to we the people and stop letting the oligarchs and the corporations run this country. We need to make sure that when we go out in the streets and we march and we make a statement, that they just don't wait us out because they're going to get another commercial buy that's coming up. This means attacking the media. This means attacking the corporate media, because they get the dollars from the advertising that they get from all the different ads that happen. They are just as much the problem as anybody else. So anybody out there that wants to join me and getting money out of politics, please let me know. It's tomadler.com. You can go to my website, or you can go to gayandlesbianpages.com to contact me. But I am so sick of getting money out of money being in politics and influencing every aspect. When I go to a rally, you guys, Matt, when I go to a rally and it's for a woman's right to choose or whatever, I'm always, for the last 20 years, carrying my sign, get money out. Because you know what? That is the thread that actually
got one more caller.
Every other issue that's out there is money in politics, and we have got to get it out.
Totally agree, Tom. Thanks so much for
Love
that
the
call.
passion.
Yeah, and it's just a crucial issue.
Yep.
We got one more caller, the Cardi tells me. So who's up to bat, Cardi?
Tom from Richland Center.
Okay.
Hey, folks. I just want to mention in response to that last one, I've been heavily involved in local politics out here. Ran for assembly twice and county board as a progressive. And the Democrats are just as responsible for money in politics and gerrymandering. They didn't accept in 2009 the idea of a Iowa-style situation when we had the assembly, the Senate, and the governor. And so when we talk about changing all this stuff, we got to remember some of our best friends are involved in making it the way it is. I was told not to talk about getting money out of politics when I was there. But the direction I would like to see us go in is more community organizing approach. Elections come around, we do our thing for them, but in between, if you think back to the Black Panthers, they were a militant face of the men walking around in leather jackets and berets and looking really rough. But behind the scenes, the women did an incredible job of childcare and after-school activities and food banks. And that's the kind of stuff that we organize around the things that are not being met because they're being taken away. The politics will happen. It's like we got to develop the community. And that takes more than an election strategy.
Absolutely, Tom from Richland Center. And that's the work that Angela Lang does every day and her team does every day at Black Leaders Organizing for Communities. So, Angela, why don't you talk about how important that grassroots work is?
Yeah, I was going to say that's music to my ears, right? Because especially in a state like Wisconsin, where thank goodness we do not have another election for 10 months, assuming that there's going to be some sort of primary in February of next year. So what are we doing in that downtime? 10 months goes by really, really fast. And it's not really, it doesn't, to me, and I think a lot of other organizers, it doesn't make sense to completely get rid of your organizing infrastructure and kind of just be dormant until the next election cycle, especially when it's only 10 months in between elections. How are we talking to folks? How are we talking to people about this moment right now as well? So I'm here for it. Year-round organizing. You need to always have conversations, especially in Wisconsin, when every 5 minutes there's an election.
Yeah, thanks so much, Tom from Richland Center, for that call. You can join the conversation, 855-752-4842. You're listening to the Earl Ingram Show on Civic Media. I'm Matt Rothschild with Angela Lang here, co-hosting as Earl's out today. Please give us a holler and join our conversation right after this bump. good morning, Wisconsin. Matt Rothschild here. I'm subbing in for Earl Ingram on the Earl Ingram Show here on the Civic Media Radio Network. And my guest co-host is Angela Lang, the executive director and founder of Block, Black Leaders Organizing for Communities. And I always enjoy working with Angela, co-hosting together whenever there is someone who can't make it. You know, I've told the folks at Civic Media, you know, I'm out in the bullpen. I'm ready to go whenever you need me. I'm a right-hander, but I'm a lefty. So,
You texted me last night. I checked my schedule. I said, yep, great. I'm open.
I couldn't believe it. Angela, within about 10 seconds, says, yeah, let's go.
Yep.
So here we are. Please join our conversation if you'd like to talk about campaign finance, the Wisconsin Supreme Court race, politics here in Wisconsin. 855-752-4842. And at the start of the next hour, we're going to talk about Cory Booker a little bit and the amazing speech that he gave, 25 hours, holy smokes, and what that means for the Democrats and the resistance movement going forward. And also we'll talk a little bit about Trump just lighting up our economy and throwing it in the trash. And so if you want to join that, please join us right after the hour break at 855-752-4842. But I wanted to continue on this conversation a little bit on campaign finance, and then take a couple callers that we have because, Tom from Richland Center was correct. The Democrats could have solved a part of the problem of campaign finance when they had the power in 2009, but they didn't do that. And Ben Wickler has been able to, beat the Republicans at their own game here for a while, but I don't think that's a long time solution because, look, there are more billionaires on the right than there are on the left, and Elon Musk himself could, instead of putting 25 million, could have put 250 million. I don't know if it would have done any good, but when the sky's the limit and the sky's being polluted by all this money, and the folks in the billionaire class tend to lean right, having the sky being the limit isn't the answer. So there are some Democrats in the state legislature right now who've been working on this problem. Senator Chris Larson from Milwaukee has been working on it for years and years. Every session of the legislature, he's introduced a package of campaign finance reform, which would do a whole lot of good, including putting a ceiling on donations to political parties and to the outside groups. And then I see at the State Journal today, the Wisconsin State Journal, that Kelda Royce, another state senator on the Democratic side, is also considering introducing a couple bills. One would bring back public financing for Wisconsin Supreme Court. We had that for all of 1 year in one race. And as soon as Walker got in, they got rid of that. So, tell me who's to blame here. And she also would require a bill that would require more disclosures. There's a lot of reforms that we can do here in Wisconsin to help rectify the problem, but also we need to overturn Citizens United. And it's not just Citizens United, of course. Citizens United is a shorthand for 140 years of bad U.S. Supreme Court decisions on money in politics. The two false equations, of course, that corporations are persons and money is speech. Those are fallacies. So we've got two more callers. Cardi tells me. Who's up to bat, Cardi?
We have Mike from Kenosha. Mike, you're up.
Good morning. Thanks for taking my call. We miss you, Earl, but you guys are doing a great job. Thanks.
Thanks, Mike.
Hey, real quick, when it comes to restoring good government in our electioneering, I think we need to break it down to simple terms, very common sense approach. First of all, whose election is it? And I would have to reply, obviously, it's we the people's election. It's not the media's, it's not the donors, it's not the special interests, it's not K Street, it's we the people. So first thing in my mind, when we need to approach a very difficult subject, is take ownership in whose it is, whose responsibility is it, and it's nobody else's but we the people. Number one. Number two is it's our election. Since it's our election, we ought to be able to dictate, the laws and the procedures of our elections, not the moneyed interest. There's nobody that I know that feels good about what we call now, which is normalized, the donor class.
Yeah.
That is so anti-U.S. Constitution that just about curls my stomach thinking about it when I say it. So again, first thing we have to do is realize it's our election. It's not the corporates, it's not the media's, it's not the special interests, it's ours. And we have every right to run it as we deem necessary. Number two, even the 1976 Buckley and 1978 Berlotti Supreme Court cases, which first opened the door for corporations are people and money speech, those were not court decisions. When I researched this deeply, I look back and what I learned is some clerk hand wrote a note on the document, hand wrote the note, corporations are people, money, speech. There is no legal basis for it.
Yeah,
That's
Mike,
my whole thing. Is this whole... Go ahead.
No, I just want to thank you for your call. We're running out of time, but you're right. Mike's referring to a clerk at the U.S. Supreme Court in 1888 in a case called Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railway, where no justices said corporations are persons, but the clerk put that there, that corporations are persons, and that's how that precedent started. So it's still with us. Crazy. So we'll be back. Please join the conversation. We'll take more of your calls. 855-752-4842. This is the Earl Ingram Show. I'm Matt Rothschild, joined by Angela Lang. We'll be right back.
Everything you wanted and needed in me. I don't have the heart to hurt you. It's the last thing I wanna do, but I don't have the heart to love you, not the way you want me to. Inside I'm dying to see you crying. How can I make you understand? I care about you, so much about you, baby. I'm trying to say this as gently as I can, 'cause I don't have the heart to hurt you. It's the last thing I wanna do, but I don't have the heart to love you, not the way you want me to. You're so trusting and open, hoping that love will start, but I don't have the heart. Oh no, I don't have the heart. I don't have the heart to hurt you. It's the last thing I wanna do, but I don't have the heart to love you, not the way that you want me to. I times in my life I've been wondering why. Still somehow I believe we'd always survive. Now I'm not so sure.
And welcome back to the Earl Ingram Show on the Civic Media Radio Network. I'm Matt Rothschild, guest hosting for Earl, who's off today. He'll be back on Monday, and I'm joined by my usual guest host, Angela Lang of Block. And let's just take a couple callers if they're still with us, Cardi, and then we'll continue our conversation. No, what do we got? No more callers? All right, good. We're going to change subjects because I wanted to get to the amazing speech by Cory Booker on the Senate floor of 25 hours. We're going to hear a little bit from Cory Booker, then we'll discuss that. You can join the conversation. 855-752-4842. That's 855-75-CIVIC. But let's let Cory Booker take the floor.
I rise with the intention of disrupting the normal business of the United States Senate for as long as I am physically able. This would be a crisis for elder care. This would be a crisis for disability services. What it is, when a nation isn't taking care of its elders, it's a crisis of our national character. Why are so many women dying in childbirth and in the postpartum period in America? Shameful. And now, I just found out that the community violence intervention money that you allowed me to fight so hard to get into that bill is being clawed back by Donald Trump. They're writing me letters with words like fear and terror. They're talking about staying up at night and not being able to sleep because they don't have a president that comforts them. I mean, it's almost like you can't make this up, honestly. Another story from a Social Security employee in New Jersey. I am a claims representative for our Social Security field office. The most dramatic changes I've noticed from our recent change in operations is that our appointment calendar seems to be filling up more quickly for simple post-entitlement changes. We've gone through healthcare cuts. We've gone through Social Security being attacked and undermined and slashed. If you're revoking somebody's visa, make a phone call, tell them that you have 30 days to leave. But there should be due process. You should have to prove your claims in court. If this person is somehow aligning with some kind of enemy, prove it. You don't need more tax cuts. And we as a society have an obligation to each other, to those farmers, to those rural folks, to the cops I stood with at the funeral of one of their colleagues in Newark 2 weeks ago. Our Social Security offices are being closed already. And the question of why, under the guise of efficiency, but you're hurting our elders who deserve dignity in their retirement. It's stunning to me. I've had farmers from New Jersey to Texas coming to my office about this president freezing contracts that we approved in a bipartisan manner, putting them in financial crisis. It's not right or left, it's right or wrong. It's not a partisan moment. It's an American moment. It's a moral moment. Does the wealth of our people, we have more billionaires than any other country, does that speak to the greatness of our nation? No. I think the things that speak to the greatness of a nation is how do we take care of each other? I ask you, are you better off than you were 72 days ago economically? I ask that question. Ask it to your friends. Are they better off economically? Well, I don't see how they could be because prices are up, stock market's down, the risk of recession is climbing, consumer confidence is in the gutter. I want to stand here today and tell you I'm going to do everything I can. I'm willing to go to some lengths. But I am inadequate. You are inadequate. We're senators with all of this power, but in this democracy, the power of the people is greater than the people in power. This is a moral moment that more Americans need to stand up and say enough is enough. Moment where judges rule in his favor and he praises them. They just don't rule for him. He drags them and threatens them. So much so that Chief Justice of the Supreme Court has to tell them to back up. When elected officials speak up, many of them fear what the consequences would be for them or their reelection if they speak against him.
That would be it from Cory Booker.
What a medley you put
Our first guest tonight is an Emmy.
It was amazing. And Cory Booker, and I want to hear, Angela, what you felt about the speech. But to me, it was so refreshing. Finally refreshing to have a Democratic senator rise up and with the proper sense of outrage, say what's going on in this country is not normal. And stressing the human costs to the damage that Trump is inflicting on this country and that Elon Musk is inflicting on this country, and stressing the moral moment. I thought it was just an incredible, not just a performance, it was a performance, but an incredible act of courage that I think, like the victory we had here in Wisconsin, gave us some winded our sails.
Yeah, I mean, I stumbled upon the speech shortly after Senator Booker started it. I happened to be on my TV about to look up something on YouTube for work, and then I saw it said Cory Booker is live, and I was like, oh, what's this? And then I kept it on until I went to bed until like midnight, and I was like, wow. And then I woke up and I'm scrolling social media, and I'm like, Cory's still talking. Okay, like I went to bed, he's still talking. Went to work, came back, still talking. So I saw a good several hours of this, and also went about my day. But at the same time, you know, I was thinking about it, and I don't think it's a surprise to any of the listeners. I'm a little left of Democrat, right? And so for some of the lefties to take social media and say, oh, this is all performative. He didn't talk about this. He didn't talk about that. And I'm like, we wanted Democrats to do something. He is doing something. And he's also, and I didn't watch all 25 hours now, but as someone that saw several hours, I heard him talk about how like we are inadequate. Like I'm doing what I can, but I don't have the answers, was kind of the tone that he was taking. But he wanted to put a face to the stats and what is happening with the Trump administration, because people see these headlines, but they don't know the stories, the real stories. And what was interesting, I happened to see the time where he had several stories from Chippewa Falls, and he was like, I need to go visit, which was interesting. But to see some of the senators also kind of tap in so we can, you know, stop talking for a few minutes. And I saw the exchange between him and Senator Tammy Baldwin as well, too. And so, you know, hearing some folks saying, oh, this was performative. Listen, like if that were me up there, I probably would have done things differently. I would have said probably a lot more quote unquote radical things, right? But I also would not have been able to be up there for 25 hours, right? Somebody was like, it was performative. You perform for 25 hours. It's something. And whether people think it's not enough, it is something. And I also would be remiss if I didn't talk about the, you know, it's the longest speech on the Senate floor because he broke the previous record from Strom Thurmond, who in 1957 was filibustering the Civil Rights Act. And so to have a Black man all these years later break the record, so now the longest standing Senate speech is now about this and no longer about attacking civil rights. That is significant. That is meaningful. Was it the most radical lefty thing that we have ever seen? No, but it was still significant because you see the reaction. People had a little bit of hope. People are like, okay, Democrats are doing something. Maybe this gives permission for other senators to also do other things. He disrupted business as usual for 25 hours. And he was able to capture media attention away from Trump, away from all this what we're normally seeing. He did something that we're not used to seeing. And whether you agree if it was the most lefty radical thing, you have to admit it was significant, it was symbolic, and it meant a lot to people. And thinking long term, people need that little bit of hope right now. They needed that energy. And between that and the Susan Crawford win, people feel energized. And so it was something. And I think we can't out left each other. We can also acknowledge that's not what all the things I would have said, but that's not what everyday Americans maybe needed to hear. And you know, there's all sorts of criticism. It was performative. No, it was important and it was significant, and we cannot take that away from the folks that were watching and the impact and how it impacted them too.
Yeah, it's Angela Lang, who's co-hosting today with me on the Earl Ingram Show. I'm Matt Rothschild. Yeah, I thought it was amazing. I mean, he did touch on a lot of really important issues, even in that medley that Cardi brought us. He talked about due process and this ridiculous anti-American assault on due process, which is just one of the most outrageous things I've ever seen. And he talked about women's reproductive health. He talked about, the super rich not needing a tax cut. He mentioned a lot of really important things.
Got Brendan on the line. A caller.
We got a caller on the line?
Yes, sir. We have a caller on the line.
Sure. Let's take it.
1 second. Brendan, you're on the line.
Yeah, I just wanted to express, I'm listening to Angela and I get where she's coming from, but I think what we need to do as a country is shift from this whole left and far
2 minutes.
right and far right thing to realizing we're in a class war, okay? This isn't about left and right. We need to get elbow to elbow with the MAGA folks that are disappointed, that made their vote based on all the lies they were told. And I'm a Democrat, and I grew up out in the San Francisco area, okay? So I'd probably be considered a tree hugger. But, I just got back from the grocery store, and man, is my debit card tired, okay? We need to get together and as right and left, but hardworking Americans. That's what we are, and that's who we need to stand with, okay? And that's really my message. And I also just want to really quickly point out, because I see Cardi holding his hand up, that while 4 dead Americans were brought home, Trump jumped on Air Force One for another $3.1 million golf trip to go down to Doral and attend the LIV golf tournament, okay? So that's our leadership right now, everybody, okay? So for those of you that voted on the right in Wisconsin, wake up. Come on, man. We're in this fight with you.
We hear you, Brendan. We got to, I'm sorry to cut you off. We got to take a break. We'll be right back on the Earl Ingram Show. Earl will be back on Monday. Matt Rothschild here with Angela Lang. We'll take your calls and we'll talk about the economy on the way back.
You think that maybe it's over, only if you want it to. Are you gonna wait for a sign, your miracle? Stand up and fight. This is it. Make no mistake where you are. This is it. Your back's to the corner. This is it. Don't be a fool anymore. This is it. The waiting is over. No room to run. No way to hide. No time for wondering why. It's here. The moment is now. About to decide. Let him believe. Leave him behind. Keep me near in your heart. No, whatever you do, I'm here by your side. You said that maybe it's all. Poetry, it's floetic, it's floetic, it's floetic, it's floetic, it's floetic.
Good morning, Matt Rothschild here, subbing in for Earl Ingram on the Earl Ingram Show all across the Civic Media Radio Network. Earl will be back on Monday. I'm joined by Angela Lang, founder and executive director of Block. She's my co-guest host today, and whenever I'm called in to sub, I immediately text or email Angela and see if she can join me. So it's always a pleasure being with you, Angela. Thanks for being on.
Likewise. Thank you.
I want to thank Brendan for that call and for his funny comment, and kind of a telling comment. Man, my debit card is tired. I know we had a texter, Happiness Donuts is the tag, who said her debit card's tired too. So there you go. And I think a lot more people's debit cards are going to be tired. You better buckle your seatbelts here because the markets are going down fast. I'm looking at the Dow down 2.85%, and the S&P and NASDAQ down about 3.5% just this morning. What we have is Donald Trump. It's not funny. It's disastrous for people, especially for people who, 401ks are going through the floor, or lifetime investments are being decimated right now. But Donald Trump is just taking a blowtorch to our economy and trashing it. Let's lighten it up a little, though, with Stephen Colbert, who I saw last night, with a funny little take on this. Cardi, if you've got that queued up, let's play Stephen Colbert.
Today was the first day of trading on Wall Street since Trump slathered our economy in honey and staked it down next to a fire ant hill. And the Dow Jones nosedived 1,700 points, joining the S&P and NASDAQ in having their biggest drop since 2020. So, worst day for our economy since COVID. Just a little reminder, this time, he's the disease. Has anyone, I'm just spitballing here. Has anyone thought about injecting our money with bleach?
Yeah. More kind of gallows humor about our economy here, as everyone's standard of living is going to go down here. I mean, prices are going to go up across the board because of the tariffs. People who had money in the stock market yesterday have a lot less money there today. People who had it in the market a month ago have seen a lot of it go away. And so everyone's going to have less disposable income. And so the economy is going to go into a recession, and maybe a deep recession. And there may be a global recession. It may be music to China's ears that can take a lot of our business and have better, stable relationships with other trading partners, because the United States right now is not a stable trading partner. We have an egomaniac who's president, who shoots from the hip and just tries to act the bully and doesn't understand global economics at all. If he did, he wouldn't have been imposing these ridiculous tariffs that he imposed the other day, strutting around with his placard in his hand like he's just a salesman, which he's always been, just a con man and a salesman. He was doing his pitch, and look where it's gotten us. And so the economy's in a pretty much free fall, at least the markets are. And, for people who voted for Donald Trump, I know a lot of people voted for Donald Trump because of the economy, because the economy was good last time around until COVID. And they thought, this businessman, this billionaire can help with the economy. But, he fooled you again. That's what a con man does.
I'm like, why aren't eggs free then? If that's what you all said by electing Donald, my eggs should be free at this point. That's why you all chose to elect him, right? And here we are. And I think to bring it back to, I've been thinking about this, the classism aspect that one of the callers said, like, it's not left or right, it's classism. And I agree to a certain extent of that. Absolutely. And I think if we're going to connect this back locally with, say, like the Supreme Court, people are hurting, right? Like, people are feeling the pinch. They're going to unfortunately feel it even more in the coming days and coming weeks as the markets continue to be what they are. And here you are having the richest man in the world say, well, if you just, give me your phone number and email address, I'll give you $100. Sell your democracy for $100. Knowing that people are feeling financially stressed. They're feeling that financial crunch right now, and knowing it is appealing to say, oh, let's just give you some little chump change. $100 for Elon Musk is like pennies in his pocket. And so if we're going to really talk about this classism, let's talk about how you have people trying to buy our votes, have us sell out our own democracy, because the backdrop is that the economy is in free fall and people are hurting. People could use that extra $100 to make rent or put food on their table or gas in their tank or childcare, what have you. And so I think that was intentional, of like knowing that the markets and, you know, the economy and eggs and childcare and housing, all of these costs are going up. People are getting priced out. And then here is Elon Musk, like kind of just throwing $100 at people. And I think there's something to be said about the classism, about how these billionaires are playing in our democracy. We have this oligarchy right now, but the masses clearly don't even have the same level of wealth or can't even try to compete. So people are doing things in order to make ends meet, including signing a petition that Elon Musk said. And a lot of folks said, I took the $100, but I voted for Susan Crawford. Right. But I think it was just like an added little extra, you know, trying to dangle money over people's heads because of the current economic situation right now.
And it's so condescending for Musk and for Trump to say, you know, there might be a little bit of pain here in the short term. You know, Donald Trump is not going to feel the pain. Elon Musk doesn't feel the pain.
Never.
But if you're listening to this show, you're going to feel the pain. You're probably feeling the pain today looking
Right
at the
now.
stock market. You're feeling the pain when you're going to the grocery store. And after these tariffs kick in, the prices are going to be even higher and you're going to even feel more pain. So it's so obnoxious and rude for Trump and Musk to be talking about, you know, you got to endure a little pain here. These guys are going to be fine. And it's the rest of us that are going to be enduring the pain. That's what's so disgraceful about it. And I agree in part, it's not left, right, it's top, bottom, as Jim Hightower used to say. But, you know, I'm a person of the left, and I believe in the power of the people and the power of us as a community through our elected government to solve the problems. And I think we're going to have to come back to that after we get through this period of Trump. And we're going to talk about maybe how we can get through this period when we return right after the break. I'm Matt Rothschild. I'm here with Angela Lang. You're listening to the Earl Ingram Show on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Yo, you haven't heard a word about the flowetry shit. Flowicism, flowetry, it's floetic. Once you have heard it, you have to get it. So you can sing it, or you could play it. You could play it, yeah, you could play it. You let your body move, feel it inside you. Inside you. We can get it inside you. To let your body move, feel it inside you. Inside you. Once again, we're flowetry and we're alright. I'm the closest and I'm alright. She's songstress and she's alright.
Welcome back to the Earl Ingram Show. I'm Matt Rothschild. I'm guest hosting for Earl, who will be back on Monday. And my fellow co-host, Angela Lang, is with me. Angela Lang is the founder and executive director of Block, Black Leaders Organizing for Communities. Angela, it's been a fun hour and a half so far. We got a half hour left. How you doing?
I'm good. It's always, I have Fridays off, and off is like loosely. And so I'm like, this is a good Friday. This is a good conversation to have. And I'm always grateful every time you have the opportunity and ask me to guest co-host with you. I'm always down.
There you go. I'll keep you to that.
Yep.
Cardi, it's a pleasure working with you too. Do we have a caller on the line?
Yes, we do. We have Charles. Charles, you're on the line.
Good morning. First of all, great show.
Good morning.
My only pushback would be that Trump didn't come into a disaster his first term. He came in on an upswing economy that Obama had going. And I know COVID kind of dismantled that, but I don't know that Trump could have turned around the economy if he would have came into what Obama came into. I think he's more of a slickster and talks a big game. But when it comes down to it, if you look at how he's run his own businesses, they've all been a disaster.
Charles, I really appreciate the call. I mean, Trump is the ultimate slickster. I mean, that's who the guy is. And you're right. I mean, he inherited a good economy from Obama. He inherited a great economy from Biden. This is a self-inflicted wound. I mean, he shot himself in the heart right now. He shot the economy in the heart. And it was going full steam, and he's just destroyed this thing in no time flat. And he's got no one to blame but himself. I mean, the market's down, 3.5%, 4% just this morning. And it's
He's
it's
going to blame
crazy.
Biden somehow. It's
Oh, I'm
Biden's
sure he
fault.
will. I mean, he blames Biden before he goes to sleep at night. But I mean, it's just, that's who he is. He's a narcissist. He's a clinical narcissist. If you look in any of the mental health books or online under pathological narcissist, he checks every box. And that's who we have here. And that's the, the tragedy of November that the American people elected this guy again. And we're living with this tragedy for the next 4 years. And so my question to you, Angela, is, how do we get through this thing?
That's a very good question. I think going back to a previous call about being able to just like build up our community, I think that's incredibly important right now. I think especially after November, there were some folks, some of my organizing friends that looked around and were like, where is everybody? What's happening? What are we doing? And what I noticed is that people were moving inward. How are they protecting people? How are they protecting immigrants? How are they protecting trans folks in their communities? And so I think that was something that we didn't necessarily see after the first Trump election. And there was immediate, mass protest. But I think that there was a little bit of a pause, a collective one. I think everybody was stunned. So everyone had to take a minute to process. But I appreciate that people were like, all right, how are we doubling down on mutual aid? How am I an ally being able to show up for folks that may be targeted in this administration? So I think we need to continue to do more of that. But also, like, I'm looking outside and spring is here and summer will be here. And how are we also finding ways to be with people and to live outside and to live our lives? Because I think for me, I'm always working and I'm always trying to figure out how do we fix this, gestures wildly. And it's just like we also don't want to have our own lives kind of pass us by while we're trying to do this. We want thriving communities because we want to live thriving lives, but we need to also make sure that we're taking time to live in those thriving lives in addition to building some of that community and resisting too.
Yeah, I think there was a lull after November, but people are coming back. And if you want to join the conversation and give us your idea how we make it through this Trump administration, 855-752-4842. Cardi tells me we have callers. I think Ollie's up next.
Ollie from Northwoods.
Good morning, Matt and Angela. Congratulations on your award. But I have a couple of things that, first off, I'd like to say of Cory Booker's speech that it was not performative, but it was informative. And the most patriotic thing that I've heard or felt in a long, long time in the United States. And I think that's what people don't understand, is that with Trump's tariffs, it's hurting each one of us in the pocketbook. I'm a senior citizen on Social Security, disabled, so I can't get out and march. Although I wish I could, I would start a Cory Booker stand alongside Cory Booker protest. But I want to say that not only is Trump hurting us in our pocketbook, he's hurting us in so many ways. The people from other countries are not going to come here and spend their money here, or want to come here. They're not going to want us in their country. They're never going to feel like they can trust America anymore. So many things have been damaged by Trump's nonsense and his tariffs and the way he's tearing apart people. And I call the different places for the other countries and say, this is not what America wants.
Mm-hmm.
Please understand that Trump is tearing down our country as well. And I think it would behoove all of us to take a minute to write the other countries just a letter to say that we are standing with them and not with Trump. And we hope they understand and stand with us.
Yeah, thanks, Ollie from the Northwoods, for that thoughtful comment. I know friends of mine who've been to Europe, for instance, recently, they have to essentially say, try to explain this crazy country to people in Europe, for one thing, because people can't understand what's going on. And it's hard for any of us to understand what's going on.
I've seen some folks go ahead.
And to say Trump does not represent us.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a really important point, Ollie. Also, Ollie, you mentioned, protests. I do want to reiterate that there are protests going on all over the country tomorrow at noon. In Madison, they're at the Capitol. In Milwaukee, they're at 517 East Wisconsin Avenue. Up in Wausau, they're on Rib Mountain Drive between Michael Crafts and Hobby Lobby. In La Crosse, they're on Losey Boulevard South and State Road. At Eau Claire, it's at Farmers Market Pavilion. And in Green Bay, they're at Lake Memorial Park. So there are protests going on all over the country tomorrow, all over Wisconsin. You can find out more details at handsoff2025.com. It's really important that people protest, because we need to show our fellow citizens, we need to show Donald Trump that we're not on board with any of this craziness, and we want our democracy back. Mm-hmm. So please join those protests if you can. Cardi, do we have another caller?
Yes, we have 3 callers on the line. Let's go to JoJo. JoJo, you're on the line.
Oh, there's about 8-10 subjects, and one better than the next. But the handwriting, I've been a graphoanalyst for like 70 years, and it always disturbed me that people had not paid attention. It's certifiable. I mean, it's just, that's only a tiny thing. Oh, every caller has been amazing this morning. Bless each one of them for calling in to important radio station. Gee whiz. I'm like this lady. I'm in my 80s, and I'm usually sharp, but I short circuit.
You're doing fine, JoJo.
Oh yeah, let's see. It can be a hoot when I get going, because I get it kind of comedic. Let's see. Well, other subjects we've had. Each one. I should make notes. gee whiz, I'm gonna take a. The penny when McKinley was shot in Milwaukee, 90 years ago, about now. $100 is $100. That $100 now is a wheat penny. That's probably you can probably sell a wheat penny for half a hundred. But so when not Dump's Rump, the other sidekick, what's his name, Musk, when he offers $100, that's like 1 cent. We the people would be better off to take our 2 cents worth and keep speaking up. There's a breath of fresh air since this election. I was afraid to turn the radio on. I would not listen to the reports of election the night before. So with hesitancy, I picked up a cell phone, which I'm not too happy about in general, but it had news, and I scanned and got that we have a breath of fresh air here. And I was more succinct as I was waiting on the line.
Oh, that's okay, JoJo. I want to
3
thank you for your
minutes.
call.
There's so many subjects.
We've
Yeah,
got
but thank you.
we've got
You guys
other
did
people in line. I really appreciate your calling and your kind words too. Who else is up, Cardi?
Let's go to Jack from Racine. Jack, you're on the line. Hello, Jack, you're on the line. All right, let's go to John from Milwaukee. John, you're on the line.
Yeah, I just would like to give some information on tariffs based on my career. I can't understand any importer or supplier that would not pass on the tariffs, although they're talking that some may. But when they pass on a 25% tariff, that's $25 on 100. Then it goes, they put their margin on top of that $25. Then it comes to a distributor, and the distributor will put their margin on that tariff in addition to the importer. And finally, it goes to a retailer, and they will put their margin. The margins are typically 25, 25, and 20. And so when that three systems applied the margin to the $25 tariff based on a $100 investment, it turns out to be $55 is what the consumer will be seeing, an increase of $55 based on the tariff. It is not a $25 on 100, it's 55.
John, thanks for that call. I mean, these tariffs are really going to bite. As John says, it's not just the tariff itself, but it's the added price along the line before it gets to us as consumers. And so as a result, everything's going to cost more. Inflation is going to go up. We're going to have less disposable income. The economy is going to go into reverse. People are going to be laid off. Not only the people that Elon Musk has been firing, but businesses aren't going to be able to make it. Yeah. And so this is a crisis of Donald Trump's making, an intentional sabotage of our own economy. And this is an opportunity for us to talk to people who may have voted for Trump thinking he could help with the economy and just say, look, this isn't what you bargained for. This isn't what you wanted. I know you. And the great thing about organizing, Angela and her group goes door to door and has these relationships with people. So you and your team can talk to them and other organizers around the state in Jefferson, up in Western Wisconsin who do great door to door work. We can make the case now in a very powerful way. This is the Earl Ingram Show. We'll be right back. I'm Matt Rothschild with Angela Lang. Please join us. 855-752-4842.
He never did me wrong. I was the one, the weakest one ever, and now I'm oh so sad. I don't think he's coming back, coming back. I did too much lying, wasted too much.
–
1, 2, 3, My baby don't mess around because she loves me so, and this I know for sure. But does she really wanna, but can't stand to see me walk out the door? Don't try to fight the feeling, 'cause the thought alone is killing me right now.
Hey, Matt Rothschild here on the Earl Ingram Show with Angela Lang and Cardi in the booth. You're listening to the Earl Ingram Show. Earl's not here today. He'll be back on Monday. The number to call to join the conversation is 855-752-4842. That's 855-75-CIVIC. How are we going to get through this Trump administration? How are we going to get through the day? I'm just looking at CNN right now for the latest. Dow is down 4%. S&P is down 4.85%. NASDAQ is down 5.35%. Thank you, Donald Trump. I guess we've got a different Don on the line. Cardi, let's go to Don.
It's the good Don from Milwaukee.
There we go.
Yeah, I'm a lot different, trust me. Good morning. Good morning, man. When he was standing, this idiot, this moron, when he was standing in the Rose Garden the other day, in the chart of all these countries, he was going to, he had different, where he was going to charge these tariffs. I noticed there's one country that was missing, and I wonder if you guys can guess who it was.
Don't know. Tell us, please.
Russia.
Ah.
I didn't see that name on there. Vietnam. You named the country. I mean, he had every country under the sun on that chart. And I'm looking at Vietnam. Gee, I didn't think we'd done that much trade with Vietnam. But oh well. I just thought I'd bring that to your attention. So thank you for honoring me with your call.
Well, Don, thank you for thank you for calling and honoring Civic Media with your voice and your comment, which is a good one too. And I wanted to get back to also what another caller had mentioned, Angela, and that is Trump's going to be going golfing right now when everyone in America is looking at the economy going straight into the toilet. I mean, that's not a good. It's not a good optic for him.
No.
And so, but I am still trying to puzzle through why he wants to destroy the economy. Part of me thinks that maybe, he just wants to exercise dictatorial powers one way or another. And when people rise up and protest, like I hope we'll all do tomorrow at noon, he might use it as an excuse to, put the tanks in the streets. I mean, that's my biggest fear of the Trump administration, that we're going to have full-blown fascism, because he is a fascist. He's surrounded by fascist folks. And they're looking for an opportunity. I mean, right now, this disappearing of people is grotesque. We are in a police state in a way, as an op-ed writer at the New York Times named Gessen pointed out earlier this week. We're entering a police state. And I wanted to go to a poem. I always like to bring a poem to Civic Media whenever I'm on, from the great Adrienne Rich. This is a poem where she mentions that people are being disappeared in the United States. She was being prophetic as always. This is a poem called What Times Are These?
And this is the first of a sequence of poems called What Kind of Times Are These? The title coming from a poem by the great German communist playwright and poet Bertolt Brecht, in which he says, what kind of times are these, when it seems almost a crime to talk about trees because it means keeping silent about so many evil deeds. There's a place between two stands of trees where the grass grows uphill and the old revolutionary road breaks off into shadows, near a meeting house abandoned by the persecuted who disappeared into those shadows. I've walked there picking mushrooms at the edge of dread, but don't be fooled. This isn't a Russian poem. This is not somewhere else but here, our country moving closer to its own truth and dread, its own ways of making people disappear.
Mm-hmm.
I won't tell you where the place is, the dark mesh of the woods, meeting the unmarked strip of light. Ghost-ridden crossroads, leaf mold paradise. I know already who wants to buy it, sell it, make it disappear. And I won't tell you where it is. So why do I tell you anything? Because you still listen. Because in times like these, to have you listen at all, it's necessary to talk about trees.
Amazing poem by the great poet Adrienne Rich. What times are these? And, you know, we are at the edge of dread. And what a great line that is. And I just want to talk a second about her introduction there. She talked about Bertolt Brecht. And it reminded me of a comment by Walter Benjamin, who said there can be no poetry after Auschwitz. But of course, we need poetry after Auschwitz. And we need to appreciate the trees in the Adrienne Rich poem. Just as we need to protest. We need to do both and all of it. And we need our art with our activism. That's all I got for you today. I want to thank all the callers and all the texters. I want to thank Earl Ingram for letting me sub in for him. Angela Lang, of course, who's just a tremendous activist and voice, a prize-winning writer. Great to co-host with you as always, Angela.
Thank you.
And Cardi, it's terrific working with you in the booth.
Always hold it down.
Yeah, thanks for getting all the clips together. And thank you, the listener, for listening to this show. I hope you have a nice weekend. I hope you'll turn out at the protest tomorrow at noon if you can. Thanks very much and enjoy the weekend.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there.
You think you're